Hi guys, Damian Erskine here. I'd like to thank Bass Players United for having me do this video lesson, and I wanted to do something on arpeggios for you guys. We'll get going with arpeggios, and eventually we'll get into how those lead into chord scales and how you can use that in improvisation. So arpeggios, for me, were really the beginning steps of figuring out how to play over changes and how to explore harmony on the fretboard. My logic was, if I see a chord symbol, say C major 7, that's spelling out the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th of the scale. It's giving me 4 of the 7 notes that I know are going to work really well over that chord. So first let me get comfortable with the arpeggios, and then I'll figure out the other chord tones after. So let's start with the arpeggios. So real quickly, all the basic arpeggio types. Now when I play an arpeggio, I go ahead, a lot of people just do 1, 3, 5 of the scale. I go ahead and do the full 1, 3, 5, 7, every other note in the scale. So for C major 7 arpeggio would be 1, C, 3rd of the scale, E, G, and B, every other note in the scale. For C dominant chord, it would be 1, 3, 5, flat 7, so you have a B flat. Minor, you flat the 3rd and the 7th, so we have C, E flat, G, B flat. Minor 7 flat 5, they're all flat. C, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7. So again, we've got major, dominant, minor, and minor 7 flat 5, or half diminished. Those are the primary types. Once we've talked about these, I'll talk about some of the other chord symbols you may see. Well, I'll talk about that now. If you see a fully diminished chord, it's a double flatted 7, so essentially it's just like the minor 7 flat 5. You have C, root, E flat, flat 3, flat 5, G flat, and then a double flatted 7, so it's actually the same enharmonically as the major 6th. So basically stacking minor thirds on top of each other. That's what you call a symmetrical diminished scale. That's one of them anyway. That's just C, E flat, G flat, A. Technically a B double flat. So there's that. If you see a sus chord, say a sus2, it's basically just saying replace the, instead of playing the 3rd, play the 2nd. So for a C sus2, you can do C, D, G, sus4, replace the 3rd with the 4th, C, F, G. So those are some variations. But let's talk about the primary arpeggio types, and then I'll get into some more extended chord voicings and how to deal with those. So basically, if you want to be able to play over changes, a lot of this information has to be second nature, because you need to be able to immediately recall it and not spend a lot of time thinking about it, because the bars are going by. You don't really have time to think about it. So you want to drill this stuff and get it under your fingers so you're not having to think too hard about it. For me, that meant memorizing the shapes, because I worked better with shapes than I did thinking about the harmony on everything. So I just remembered that as my major shape, and then wherever I stick it, started on a B, there's my B major, wherever I stick it, there it is. So for me, I drilled the shapes. You also want to work on inverting, learning your arpeggios in all inversions. And you may have heard people talk about that before. What that means is this would be root position, playing 1, 3, 5, 7. First inversion means take the bottom note, stick it on top. So we start with the 3rd and go 3, 5, 7, 1. So root position, first inversion, 2nd inversion, start on the 5th, but then play all the same notes. 5, 7, root, 3rd. 3rd inversion is start on the 7th. So basically 7, 1, 3, 5. So for me, I think using the real book to pull up a set of chord changes and then practicing this stuff over those chord changes is the best way to go. So I pulled up Blue and Green down here, which is a beautiful Miles Davis tune. And I'm just going to go through all of the chords in root position first. So this is how you get started in practicing using this stuff over changes. First, you want to go through the entire tune in root position. And if there's 2 chords per bar, you don't need to worry about time. It's practice. You know, you're using the song as a tool. So just use the changes. Don't worry about time. Take your time. Major chord, A dominant. So I'm going to go 1, 3, 5, flat 7. D minor 7, 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. D flat dominant. 1, 3, 5, flat 7. C minor 7. F 7. B flat major 7. A 7. D minor 7. And so on. So pick tunes, work the changes, get it so you can do it everything in root position, in time, almost like a walking a bass line. And once you get there, then you should start exploring the inversions. Because you want to be able to approach these chords, you know, when you're soloing, you don't want to be jumping to the root every time. So we need to get out of our bass player mode and start thinking about longer linear phrases through the changes. And the one way to help get used to doing that is to approach the chords from other scale tones and other chord tones in your practice. So let's say we're going to play all these chords in first inversion. So that means we're going to start on the 3rd. So for that B flat major 7, going 3, 5, 7, 1, A 7, D minor 7, D flat 7. Sorry for me to talk and play at the same time. Work through the changes in first position, first inversion, second inversion, third inversion, and then start mixing and matching, putting your arpeggios up and down and just play through the changes. Already it's starting to sound like I'm soloing over the tune, and really I'm just playing nothing but arpeggios in one inversion or another, ascending or descending. I'm just starting and thinking, what note am I closest to? So I might do a little voice leading, and instead of jumping to the next root, I might just jump to the 3rd of the next chord and arpeggiate from the 3rd. So for example, with that B flat, if I play the 1, 3, 5, 7, I land on the root of the next chord, A7. So instead I can jump down to the 7th. Just the arpeggios played more than one note at a time, 1, 3, flat 7. And a lot of my chords are inversions too. If I see a minor chord, I might jump to the 3rd and play the same notes of the arpeggio, just with the 3rd and the bass, and you get a different sound. So I'm kind of whipping through this stuff, but I wanted to cover a lot of ground and give you guys some food for thought, and so maybe some of the people just starting to get comfortable with this stuff can stop here and work on that for a while others who are already fairly comfortable with that can take some of this next stuff and move on from that. Alright, so I'm going to end this session here. This will be part 1. Now in part 2 I'm going to go ahead and explain some more about some of the chord voicings you may see in the real book and how to interpret those. Have fun.